when I'm with you. There's no one else around. Yeah, I'm so high, gravity can't hold me down. Imagine faith and hope so alive. You got me feeling so good, 'cause baby you're like the sun flying high on a blue sky, shining bright into the night. The stars sparkling down, yeah, diamonds.
Hi everyone, it's Leslie with Me, Myself, and Liberty. And as you can tell, I am not in the studio today. Senator Nathan Dahm, our guest, is traveling and he got hung up in an airport. So he's delayed. So what we've had to do is move some things around, but it's okay because Moto will be filling in for me and he will do a fantastic job, as you know. Today, we will be discussing the red flag preemption bill that Senator Dahm has introduced, along with some other very important issues. So please stay with us. I will miss you today, but I'll see you next week. And here's Moto.
Hey guys, welcome back. You just saw the video from Leslie Nesmith. She was doing her intro remotely today. And then we also have an amazing guest that Leslie got lined up that's going to be joining us remotely today also. He had some scheduling conflicts, travel, you know how it is, planes get delayed and whatnot. So, but we got a great episode for you anyways. We're going to be interviewing State Senator Nathan Dahm. All of our viewers and followers know that we absolutely dote on Senator Dahm around here. He does an amazing job, not just preserving our liberties and constitutional government, but he reads every single bill when it goes across his desk down at 23rd and Lincoln. That is a very rare quality for our legislators these days. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Senator Dahm, how do you find time to read all those bills, sir?
Well, sometimes it's quite a challenge. There are deadline weeks where everything's kind of coming to a head. If a bill doesn't pass by a certain deadline, it's essentially dead for that session. So when we get into those time periods, it can be very, very time consuming. And there are a couple times a year where I have to stay up all night long, just reading bills nonstop, reading bills on the floor between votes, trying to keep caught up on it all. But I also over the years, I've become a little bit more efficient with it. Whenever I read a bill in committee, there's a number assigned to that bill version, and I have an Excel spreadsheet where I keep track of all the bills. And so I know when a bill has cleared committee before it goes on the floor, I can look at that reference number and see if the bill has changed any between committee when I first read the bill and the floor, if there's any amendments or anything like that. And that way it allows me to just do a quick check and see, okay, well, if I had questions on it, were those questions addressed? Were they answered? If they weren't, what do I need to do to stop the bill? But I don't have to double read the bill when it comes from committee and then goes back on the floor if it hasn't changed the version at all. So there are some things like that I do to make as best use of my time as I can.
Very astute practice. Probably one of the defining differences between politicians and statesmen. You're constantly trying to improve your performance there. And I've been up with you on some of your Facebook Live videos at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So he is not kidding, folks. He is really up all night, some nights, reading these bills. And to give you an idea of the scope of that task, I believe last legislative session, what is it we were boasting about, passing some 2,000 bills?
Well, we usually have around 2,000 bills introduced, but as they go through the process, we usually have around 400 bills that are finally passed, signed into law by the governor. That's 400 that make it all the way through the process. So there's probably around 600 to 800 that make it through some portion of the process. They might go through a committee or might go through the Senate, but not through the House. So on average, I probably deal with around 750 bills throughout every legislative session. So about 1,500 every 2 years going through the entire cycle.
And of course, these bills are as efficient and abbreviated as possible, right?
I think when I calculated at one time, the average bill is about 20 pages on average. Some of them are 1, 2 pages. I mean, very rare you get a small bill like that. Some of them are 200 pages. Those are large ones, but on average, it's about 20 bills. So 20 bills or 20 pages at 2,000 bills. You're talking about 40,000 pages worth of legislation filed every year. It's a substantial number. Yeah.
Takes a lot of dedication. And actually, let's talk about one of the bills. It's always more fun, of course, whenever you're writing and authoring and controlling the bills yourself. And you have a great bill that I've been very excited to hear about a few times. We had a great meeting at the new Logan County GOP. You did a great job out there. And then I also heard Don Spencer at their monthly OK2A meeting talking about it last night. It's called, I guess you guys have coined it the anti-red flag bill. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, that's the short title for the bill, and I actually had an acronym for that, but I thought it was a little too much. It was kind of wordy, but I actually came up with an acronym that fit for that. Um, but we're calling it the Anti-Red Flag Act, and what it does is it pushes back against federal red flag legislation that has been introduced in Washington D.C. coming from Congress. There's several different versions of red flag bills of what they're trying to do in D.C., and my bill is pushing back on all of those bills.
And if I understand the bill correctly, it would actually make it illegal for anyone to try to enforce federal red flag laws, whichever ones might make it into materialization in the state of Oklahoma. It'll criminalize trying to enforce that law. Is that correct?
Correct. So the feds right now, they do have some bills that they would actually do a federal red flag law, meaning that a federal judge could say that some law-abiding citizen, based on hearsay evidence from another quote unquote concerned citizen, whoever that might be, that citizen could have their firearms removed by law enforcement under a federal judicial order. So my bill would say that any federal red flag laws, any federal judicial orders, anything like that would be unenforceable in the state of Oklahoma, and any attempt to enforce such a red flag law would be a federal offense, or excuse me, a felony offense that we could then use to prohibit law enforcement, whether it's state or federal, from enforcing that type of a red flag law here in our state.
Now, sir, I got to warn you, I'm sure you're aware, you're getting dangerously close to state sovereignty when you talk like that.
Oh yeah, and I know that there's a lot of people, even several Democrat state reps, who have said, well, we can't do that. The supremacy clause says that federal laws are reign supreme. And I remind them, well, first of all, that's not what it says. The supremacy clause says that all laws of the United States made in conformity with the Constitution are the supreme law of the land, not just any law that they pass. It has to be in conformity with the Constitution, and red flag laws are not in conformity. They violate almost every aspect of the Bill of Rights, almost all 10 of the Bill of Rights, the 10 amendments in there, they violate it in different ways. And then the other thing is, we have this thing here in Oklahoma now called medical marijuana that is in direct violation of federal law, which the federal government has absolutely no authority to be involved with marijuana. It's not in the Constitution. It's a state issue. And we are right now violating federal law because it's still classified as an illegal substance. So it's amazing that, Democrats and other people are willing to support medical marijuana and support the state exercising its sovereignty in a matter that the federal Constitution doesn't delegate authority to Congress about. But then when it comes to something like this, something that says shall not be infringed, they think that we can't exercise state sovereignty and remind the federal government of their responsibility in not infringing on our rights. It's just amazing how people don't draw that correlation and see that.
Well, and I saw a video of you actually for our viewers. Senator Dahm is not just sitting in his office at 23rd and Lincoln or his home office. He's out there on the ground, on the front lines. I remember watching a video of you on top of an orange box outside the gathering place in Tulsa whenever OK2A and Tim Harper and his gang were up there doing their Second Amendment audits, and you actually referenced, spoke directly to the reporters in the press that were across the street, and you said, why is it that the right that says shall not be infringed is the one which is infringed the most? And actually, we're going to take a quick break, Senator. But when we get back, let's draw some comparisons, like I've often heard you do, between the permitting process for the Second Amendment and what that would look like for other amendments. So you guys don't go anywhere. We've got Senator Nathan Dahm. He does a great job at the Capitol. He's doing a great job on the interview. He's going to be back with us after the break, so don't go anywhere.
Hey everybody, Todd Tucker here. Are you tired of Big Mobile making deals with dirty DC politicians to amplify liberals and silence conservatives like you? Do you want the same quality of service that you get from your current provider without supporting leftist, anti-American subversives like Kendra Horn and Nancy Pelosi? Well, Patriot Mobile can help you, and they can make a great deal. Ask what Patriot Mobile can do for you, and ask what Patriot Mobile can do for your country. Call Patriot Mobile today at 877-367-7524. 877-367-7524. Be a patriot. Join Patriot Mobile.
Hi, I'm Leslie Nesmith, host of Me, Myself, and Liberty right here on OTUmedia. I'd like to ask you to go to www.patreon.com/OTUmedia to support us. By going to patreon.com, you are supporting everything that we do here at OTU Media and Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. We are getting the word out, so join us.
All right, hey guys, welcome back to the broadcast. You're watching Me, Myself, and Liberty on the OTU Media Network. There were some scheduling conflicts and mishaps that happened today, so I'm in for Leslie Nesmith, trying to fill her shoes. Leslie, we miss you. Can't wait to see you back next week. Before we get on with our interview with Senator Dahm, I want to remind you guys to go to the Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite website, oklahomataxpayersunite.com. There you can find our articles, but also our products at oklahomataxpayersunite.com/OTU-store. Make sure you log on to the Patreon. You can sign up to be a monthly contributor. We're on YouTube and Facebook as well. So let's get back to this interview. Senator Dahm, I mentioned briefly that I had gone up to Guthrie to hear you speak to Logan County's GOP group up there, and they're doing a great job. There was a radical in the back, one of those right-wing nuts. His name is Don Spencer, and he's the president of Oklahoma Second Amendment Association.
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
Yeah, we claim him every once in a while around here. But he brought up an interesting point, I thought, about preachers and the pulpit and what the response would look like if the state of Oklahoma tried to require a permit or a license for a priest or a preacher to practice in a church. How did you feel about that comparison, sir?
Oh, Don and I have talked about that before, and I've even told him that I'd considered filing a bill like that. But the problem is, how easily it could get used against me, saying I'm trying to restrict people's freedom of religion, rights.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than drawing the correlation and seeing, well, this is exactly what we require of the right that shall not be infringed. I mean, if we required our pastors, priests, rabbis, whoever, to go through a background check, go through a training seminar, to pay, a licensing fee every 5 years, get fingerprinted to make sure that they would adequately exercise their right to freedom of religion. There have been a lot of times throughout history, for those that maybe don't know it, that religion has been used to radicalize people and has been used to kill people. I mean, it can be a threat to people's lives, depending on how it is used. So, if you're going to say that, well, the right to free speech, or the right to keep and bear arms should be infringed, why aren't you applying it to all these other rights? Or let's look at the press is an even better example of it. I mean, the press with their false reporting at times has caused major dips in the stock market, has caused, false reporting and false allegations against people that those people never recovered from it and ended up taking their own lives because of the press and the media providing false information. So should we require the press and media go through a background check, get fingerprinted, go through First Amendment training to make sure they understand how to effectively operate their free speech rights, buy a license and pay that fee every few years, and not be able to exercise that right to free speech on school campuses or in places where alcohol is served or in gambling establishments or any of the other places where you can't exercise your Second Amendment rights? I mean, there's just this total disconnect of this one right that says shall not be infringed that is infringed upon the most. And if we were to apply those same standards to other things, I think people might be able to see it a little bit more, but I think most people would be like, well, that's extreme. That shouldn't be the case. Well, if it's extreme for the First Amendment, why isn't it extreme for the Second Amendment and shall not be infringed?
Precisely, sir. And actually, I love part of what you said there, that, religion has been responsible for many deaths based on how it is used. Let's not forget the number one cause of death in the last 100 years. I think it's something like 300 million people, and that's democide. It's government. Government is the largest reaper that the human race has known for the last 100 years. So should we have permits and background checks for Beto O'Rourke to run for president? Should he have to go through First Amendment, Second Amendment training? Because he clearly doesn't understand what the Second Amendment is about. Let's talk about that. I've seen a lot of wonderful memes lately thanking Beto for the uptick in sales for AR-15s and AK-47s.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of that online, and kind of tying the two things together, what we were just talking about and this. One thing that I saw online, several people were posting, and they said, I know Beto has proposed a gun buyback, and other people have talked about a government buyback. But after doing some research into the government and finding out how the violent history that they have and how many people that they've killed throughout history, I decided that they're ineligible to purchase my firearm because I don't want to be responsible for my firearm to a known violent entity. And
there you go. So the government has failed Senator Dahm's background check, is what we're saying.
Yeah. So, and then the other aspect of it is, how is the government going to buy back something that they didn't purchase in the first place? I mean, what this is this is government mandated theft of individuals that have the right to keep and bear arms. There's estimates of 15 million plus ARs and AKs in the United States. The vast majority, and I'm not just saying 51%, 99.9% or whatever the number is, have never been used in a violent crime, have never been used in a mass shooting. So when you have what is essentially almost a statistical, such a small number of less than 1% of firearms, let alone long rifles, that are being used in these things, it's not about the actual item itself. It's about full government control and them trying to disarm law-abiding citizens. Because we all know that criminals aren't going to disarm themselves just because the government passes a law saying that they have to disarm. It would only affect law-abiding citizens. And that is the true intent of Beto and these other people. They want to control everybody's lives, and they don't want people to be able to defend themselves against those infringements.
Well, and we know that they're using firearms like AR-15s and AKs as stand-ins for right now. They are going to come for handguns, muskets, absolutely everything. A disarmed population is their end goal, and the experts agree. Gun control works. Mao took the guns, Stalin took the guns, Hitler took the guns, Chavez took the guns, Castro took the guns, and then they killed hundreds of millions of their own people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. History has proven it time and time again. Gun registrations, gun buybacks, all these things lead towards total despotism, towards totalitarianism. That's what these people want. They want to be dictator in one, maybe to a small degree, maybe not to that level as people think, but they want to dictate how everyone else should live their lives according to their standards, not let everybody else live their lives the way that they want.
Well, and registration always precedes confiscation, and to that end, we say Molon Labe, if you want them, come and take them. I have my guns. You don't want me to have my guns. It's your move. Sir, we're going to go out to another break. You have a couple more minutes with us?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, you guys don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Okay. My name is Don Spencer. I'm the president of the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association. That's DONSPENCER. Today we have gathered here to make sure that we could file a protest against the referendum 803 for many reasons. The main one that has come across, and I witnessed it myself and recorded it yesterday, is the misrepresentation of the referendum and actually of the law itself that would be going to effect November the 1st. citizens of the state of Oklahoma have been waiting on this for over 112 years, and it's time for them to get their rights back. And a referendum, while we think it would pass easily, because it passed easily through the House and the Senate, is a complete waste of time, and especially with the misrepresentation that it's being portrayed, is completely unnecessary, and it needs to be stopped. And that's what the action is taking place here today. The referendum specifically states that a person would in the referendum states that a person would be able to legally carry a firearm on a college campus, which is completely inconsistent with the new law going into effect. That is the main objection we have. And also I'm going to let Kevin Calvey, who's our lead attorney and has filed the protest for us, have anything else to say about that. Kevin?
Okay, so I'm Kevin Calvey. I'm representing pro bono, the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association, and I believe 36 legislators and 2 other nonprofits, Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite and Oklahoma Conservative Political Action Committee, in this matter. So anytime that a petition is done, it will delay the effective date of the law. So even though, as my client has said, they're confident that statewide voters would approve constitutional carry, this, just by 3 people going and collecting signatures under false pretenses, would lead to a delay and therefore a denial or suppression of the Second Amendment rights of Oklahomans. So it's not about who would win the election. We're confident of that. It's about not delaying the full exercise of people's Second Amendment rights. So there are several things that are inaccurate and misleading, at least, about the gist of the petition. And this is the thing you can see at the top of each petition. Mr. Spencer mentioned the question about they are trying to inflame people to get them to sign this under false pretenses by claiming that this will lead to people carrying firearms at educational institutions. That's just not true. Secondly, there is a representation here that this will require law enforcement to ask whether a person possesses a firearm during an arrest, detention, or traffic stop. That's also not true. I mean, if you look at this, you'd think that the police are always required to ask, which would be potentially a burden on police, which might give police some cause to question the law, but it's just not true. So again, getting signatures under false pretenses. They also don't define what stop or detention is. What if a cop's saying, stop, don't cross the street right now? Is that a stop? Do they have to yell out, do you have a concealed carry permit? It's very poorly worded. And there's only 6 clauses in the gist, the kind of summary of what the gun banning people want to do in their referendum. All 6 of them are inaccurate. So another one would say, they're calling it permitless carry, which is not entirely accurate and certainly a loaded term. Constitutional carry is what this has been known by really all over the country and certainly all the way through the legislature. Secondly, this says that allows the carry of a firearm into any location where carrying firearms is not specifically prohibited. Well, that certainly lead a homeowner to think, well, gosh, I don't want somebody carrying a gun in my house. I'm going to put a sign on my house. No, you don't have to do that. It's still private property. And another thing is it talks about criminalized possession of firearms by aliens illegally in the United States. It's already criminal. So this doesn't, double criminalize it, like double secret probation or something. And then it says it makes constitutional carry, they say, makes failure to disclose a firearm to law enforcement a citation offense with a maximum fine of $100. This appears intended to try to disparage the constitutional carry law to firearms owners, but that's actually not accurate. So the bill, the law now, actually states no person shall be required to identify himself or herself as a handgun licensee or as lawfully in possession of any other firearm if the law enforcement officer does not demand the information. So it's up to the officer to ask, and then the person does have to respond truthfully. But also, I mean, if you read what they're saying, verbatim, what they're suggesting is that if a person has a firearm, even at their house, they possess a firearm, right? This suggests that what they're saying constitutional carry does is that a firearms owner would have to be yelling out to every cop they saw, "Hey, I got a gun at home." And it's ridiculous. It's like, the Scarlet Letter. Hester Prince, she had to wear a Scarlet A on her as her punishment. Well, you're going to have gun owners wear a Scarlet G? Or like the lepers in the book of Leviticus having to shout, "Unclean, unclean." I mean, It's a very poorly worded referendum petition, and for that reason is getting signatures under false pretenses. So for all those reasons, because this would cause a needless delay in the full exercise of the Second Amendment rights of Oklahomans, we filed this petition today. Thank you.
Got one other thing to add.
Yes.
If you'll notice on here too, it's Oklahoma Second Amendment Association, the Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite, and the Oklahoma Conservative Political Action Committee are involved, along with the House of Representatives Speaker McCall, the Floor Leader John Eccles, the Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat, and the Senate Floor Leader Kim David, along with 36 other legislators, and we have several of the senators and legislators here today at this meeting. So again, this is not exactly something that was just taken lightly and was not pushed through on a whim. This was pushed through in a month because the people wanted it and the governor signed it. So we made sure that that was taken care of, and so there's no reason for this not to take place, go into effect on November the 1st.
So if it just wasn't accurate going into this, why wait till today before filing this?
Well, as you know, it sometimes takes a while to get a locomotion moving, and so once we got things put together and worked with Kevin Calvi on this, today was the day, and we had another day to get this filed. So actually worked a little bit ahead of the schedule if we got down to it.
When can we expect to hear a result from this filing you just made?
Mr. Calvi, I'll let you address that.
So that's really in the Supreme Court's time, and we'll certainly keep you posted on that.
Is it like the Medicaid expansion challenge where the court had 10 days to assign a hearing date, or?
It's less clear on a referendum petition of this nature. So that one is an initiative petition. This is a referendum petition, so the procedure can be a little bit different, but I would expect reasonably soon.
Anything else? We can wait till it gets hotter. I'd like to thank you guys for coming out today. I'd like to thank all the Second Amendment supporters that understand how important it is to keep the rights that are here today. These people showed up on less than 24 hours notice that this was going to take place. This is how important our rights to remain and to actually be returned to the state of Oklahoma, how important it is to people. So again, with the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association, we thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Don.
All right? Thanks. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Todd Tucker here, and everyone who knows me knows I love to read a great book, and right now I'm reading this incredible novel by local author Richard Engel. All you have to do is go to LastAmericanPresident.com and say big right now in this book. The Last American President is a story about political intrigue, romance, betrayal set against the backdrop of the dissolution of the United States of America. It's great reading, and when you go to LastAmericanPresident.com, use the promo code OTU, you're going to save money. And not only that, but half the price comes back to OTU. So half the proceeds from this book come back so you can watch great programming like you see on the OTU Media Network every day. LastAmericanPresident.com. I highly recommend this book. Read it today.
Introducing all new, safe, natural relief. A cannabinoid-rich, clarity and focus formula with 17 essential supplements. When it matters most, you've got a job to do. Anxiety isn't an option. Programmed to keep you moving. A product exclusively manufactured for Active Duty RX by Cantech Labs.
All right, hey guys, welcome back to Me, Myself, and Liberty on the OTU Media Network. We are joined by Senator Nathan Dahm. Senator Dahm does a great job at 23rd and Lincoln for us and all over the state. And like I mentioned earlier, he's not just sitting in his office reading bills. He also finds time to hit the battle lines, to get out there with the troops. And we were fortunate enough to stand with Senator Dahm and House Representative Jay Stegall and 30 some odd other lawmakers, along with OK2A and OKPAC and Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite at the Oklahoma Judicial Center when we filed a protest to the petition to have constitutional carry put back on the ballot in November. Senator Dahm, do you want to give us some background on, I think most of our viewers are familiar with the constitutional carry bill and everything that's going to happen in November, but the actual petition that came from Everytown USA and Jason Lowe.
Sure. And so Oklahoma is unique in that we not only have the initiative petition process whereby citizens can collect signatures to either get a constitutional amendment on the ballot or a statutory law on the ballot, which is what we saw with medical marijuana. That was an initiative-driven petition with signatures being collected by people to do a statutory change. We also have the referendum option that if the legislature passes something that the people disapprove of, then if you collect enough signatures, it'll go on the ballot for the people to either affirm and say, yes, we approve of what the legislature did, or no, we reject what they did, and that law no longer goes into effect. So Everytown, Moms Demand Action, Representative Lowe, they got together and decided that they were going to try to do this referendum on constitutional carry that passed back in spring of this year. Actually, we passed it the year before, and Governor Powell vetoed it. However, we passed it again this year, and then Governor Stitt signed it. Want to give him lots of credit for that. That was the first bill he signed. He wasn't only just willing to do that, he was excited about doing that. So appreciate his support throughout all this as well. So they started the signature process. They were misleading people as they were collecting signatures. They were just, I say misleading to be polite, but they were
flat lying about what was in the bill that's going to take effect on November 1st.
Some of them might have been misinformed, but they were giving absolute false information. Whether they were doing it knowingly or not, I'm not going to judge them on that, but they were giving false information saying that this would open it up for campus carry and allowing firearms on campus. Firearms are allowed on campus right now in your vehicle. If you keep it locked in your vehicle, you can have a firearm in your vehicle. This law didn't change that, so they were trying to, not just trying, they were telling people that this was going to change this.
Well, now you can't just have that that firearm in your vehicle right now, no matter where you're at, unless you have a rectangular piece of permission from the state.
Your concealed carry permit, exactly, yes.
So that's what will change, is that we will not need a license that says we're in America again.
But it won't change the locations. The only location that it does change is if you're driving down the street with a loaded firearm in your vehicle. Before you had to have the concealed carry permit. Now you don't have to have that to have a loaded firearm for your protection in your vehicle when you're driving. But they were telling people that, yeah, this was going to open it up for campus carry. Now, when I ran the bill during the presentation, will this open this up for campus carry? And I told them, no, this bill does not do that. Full disclosure, I absolutely am in favor of constitutional or of campus carry, but that's not what this bill did. I am very much in favor of that. Colorado has it, Texas has it, other states have it. I'd be in favor of that, but that's not what this bill did. They were lying and misleading people with that. Even with them misleading people, they didn't collect enough signatures, so their referendum fell short. So we will see constitutional carry going into effect November 1st. For those 21 and up that are legally able to purchase a firearm, they will be able to carry that firearm everywhere that it's permissible right now without having to go and get permission and pay a fee to the government.
Now, Senator, I know that the worry that some people had about constitutional carry, or permitless carry as they were calling it, making its way back onto the ballot in November, the concern was that it would delay constitutional carry going into effect. Now, I have a question about actually putting something on the ballot in 2020 that has a constitutional carry, maybe a constitutional amendment to our state's constitution, because the first thing that I thought when I saw Joshua Harris Till and Mommy's Demand Action and Representative Jason Lowe come out with this thing was, yes, please put guns on the ballot with Trump in 2020. It will be a red landslide. What are your thoughts on maybe doing something that wouldn't, are we able to put a bill forward that would amend the Constitution but would not delay constitutional carry going in on November 1st?
Yes, because, constitutional carry goes into effect this November 1st. Anything we put on the ballot will be next year. The requirements for state ballot measures is that it has to be on a statewide ballot. So it could be on the presidential primary in March. It could be in the regular June primaries, the August runoff elections. If we have a state runoff election. That's, if there's statewide candidate, that there's more than one people or more than one person that are in that race. It could be November. Or it does allow the governor to call for a special statewide election. So the governor could put essentially anything on the ballot at any time for a statewide vote, just to deal with state questions or anything like that. So those are the availability, but it always has to be a statewide thing because the entire state has to be able to vote on it.
Well, I just want to make it very clear to the gun grabbers and the Democrats in Oklahoma. We are not worried about putting our guns on a ballot. The Second Amendment is overwhelmingly popular here in Oklahoma, and I would say it's as safe a voting issue for our state as...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about having that on the ballot either. And we are looking at some options for some things that we could put on the ballot this upcoming election cycle. So that's still to be determined, but we are having conversations about that.
Great. Well, Senator Dahm, I always love talking about the Constitution. I always love talking about guns. I love talking about the Second Amendment. What is there for you to talk to us about? Is there anything coming up on your schedule or agenda or anything we need to be aware of?
I know this upcoming, I don't know if it's this Saturday or next Saturday, but one of the local area, I think it's one of the community colleges, is having some different conversations each week about different things. So they're having me come out to discuss the constitutional carry law as sort of a town hall type meeting, answer questions on the implementation of it when it goes into effect, what changes, some of those things. I'm talking with Dawn and others about more legislation. Obviously, I filed my anti-red flag act, Senate Bill 10, senator, their state rep, and asked them to co-author Senate Bill 1081 to stand against these red flag laws, which are parts of the Bill of Rights. I'm going to continue to work on those things. Have a lot of different. I will keep you all informed. Appreciate what you do to keep the people informed. Glad to stand with you for our Constitution and our Second Amendment.
Great. Thank you, Senator Dahm. We really appreciate you being on Me, Myself, and Liberty today. And again, to all the viewers, Leslie will be back next week. We just had a flight delay, I think, that Senator Dahm had to put up with in the middle of trying to do all the other things that he does. So again, thank you so much, Senator Dahm, for being on today. Leslie, we'll see you back next week. And actually, we're going to be back after this break just to say goodbye. So we'll see you in a minute.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Drives a truck. Visit cdluniversity.org. At CDL University, and another success, another one drives a truck. Hey, gonna help you too. Another one drives a...
Dear Miller, CDL University. For some of you, it's already too late. You're standing over in a dirt field, waiting in line to back a truck, and it's been 3 weeks now. If you're gonna do this, do it right. Come to CDL University. Get your CDL.
Introducing all new, safe, natural relief. A cannabinoid-rich, clarity and focus formula with 17 essential supplements. When it matters most, you've got a job to do. Anxiety isn't an option. Programmed to keep you moving. A product exclusively manufactured for Active Duty RX by Cantech Labs.
All right, guys, This has been Moto. I was your host this evening. You just watched Me, Myself, and Liberty on the OTUmedia network. We can't wait to see Leslie back next week. Again, her and Senator Dahm's schedules just didn't quite line up today, so it fell to the keeper of the lighthouse. A huge thank you to Senator Dahm for being on the show today. Great interview. It's always great talking to you, sir. And we can't wait to have Leslie back at the helm next week, but we cannot do this without you. So, go to the website, www.oklahomataxpayersunite.com. There you can find the web store. It's got all of our great products, t-shirts, The Last American President, Active Duty RX Clarity and Focus. Also, go to the Patreon, www.patreon.com/OTUmedia. There you can sign up to be a monthly contributor. As little as $1 a month, it does help. But if you're a small business interested in advertising or you'd like to have your own show, there are going to be some packages there you're interested in. Also, find us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell and like and share our content on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and continuing our congressional candidate series, we have Dan Belcher with us today. He's been a candidate for the legislature before, so he's not new to the political arena. He's worked in campaigns, and he has the floor. And
we'll take
welcome
it.
to Reagan Breakfast.
Yes, and I probably do not need the mic, if that's okay, and everybody can hear me. I'm actually going to start off telling you a story that happened a couple of weeks ago when I was at my house. And you may not know I have an 8-year-old son, but I also do construction, and so I had some materials in my garage, and it was some tile that was on this little cooler. And in the middle of the night, that wheel on that cooler actually broke, and all that tile crashed on the concrete floor in the middle of the night. And I remember, and my son was there, waking up just right out of the bed, ran upstairs, got my golf club, I'm in my boxers, and just ready to confront whatever it was that was going on to not only protect myself, but also protect my son. Now, the reason that I bring that up is because what we're being faced with the Democratic Party is so much similar to that, as far as somebody coming and taking what is ours, which is our conservative principles and also the American way of life. And the reason that I'm actually running for Congress is to try to elicit that emotion from the Republicans, to elicit that emotion of anger. Because the Democrats, they have anger, but it's based on hate. It's a hate that they want things to be completely different. They do not enjoy the American way of life. And that emotion has to be met with the same anger, but it's a righteous anger. It's a love anger. It's a protective anger of that mama bear instinct that you don't see very often, but when you do, people regret that they let mama bear out of the bag. So the reason that I bring that up is because it's time for Republicans to get their golf club. So I'm Dan Belcher. I have been in real estate for years, 15 years, since I was 18. My childhood was down in Lawton. I grew up, born and raised. My parents divorced when I was 2. Dad was a police officer. Mom worked post office. Midnight, slept all day. So I pretty well ran the streets. I mean, that's how I grew up. And so I recognized early how little help I was going to have. And so you take and you do what you have to do to survive. And when I was 14 years old, I was fortunate enough to come across some books that were very beneficial and instructive in molding who I became as a person. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the reason I bring those up is because going through my life, I never realized that those principles were conservative principles, were exactly what it is that we are, or should be, trying to protect and trying to fight to keep. So I go, and with these principles, 18, I get into real estate, and a lot of you guys are in business. I made too much money too fast, and I lost that business. 21, I start in real estate again. It's probably more like 22. Got in a bad business relationship with a business partner, lost that one. And so then 27, start the third time. Third time's a charm. And now they can't take it from me. But the reason that I bring that up is because those conservative principles are exactly what got me to the place I am today, is overcoming obstacles, recognizing the necessity to do whatever it takes, to go the extra mile, to do more than what is expected of you. Now, whenever I first started the real estate company at about 27, this is whenever my son was being born. And so I'm grinding. I'm 16, 18-hour days, 6, 7 days a week. Well, he gets old enough to where he can start to talk about whenever he's 3 or 4. And he comes to me and he says, "Dad, you're always on the phone. You're always working." And I had a sit down with him. I said, "Son, this is the way it goes. This is what is necessary. You have to sacrifice now so that I have to sacrifice time with you now so I don't have to sacrifice time with you forever." And fast forward about 2 years ago, I actually quit answering the phone. My calls go to the office. They handle it, whatever. If it's necessary for me to get involved, they send me a text. I respond whenever I respond. Well, he comes to me when that happens and he says, "Dad, you're not on the phone anymore. You're so much more available. I love it." And I sat him back down. I said, "Son, do you remember whenever we talked about the necessity of this stuff having to be done so that we don't have to do it later?" And you can't teach that in a book. You can't present that in print. For him to be able to recognize what it is, how, again, conservative principles, work hard, put your nose down, overcome obstacles, whatever it takes for as long as it takes. And then what happens is you take the if out of the equation. If is it going to happen? No, it's when. Now it's just a timetable. You do it for long enough, you do it the right process, the right skill set. Now the reason I bring that up is because the Republican Party is going to have to fight and have to do more to turn this seat back from Kendra Horn. If we think that we're going to just line up Democrats and line up Republicans and we're just going to outcount them, then that's a fool's paradise in my opinion. Now, we're going to have to actually go out of the base to, let's say, Hispanics, let's say African American, let's say Asians, young people. This is my bread and butter. This is my people that we're going to have to have a connection with. And where I go with that is anyone can have good ideas. Anyone can have a good platform. Anyone can have, if you don't have it in a presentation that is digestible to where people can receive it, then it doesn't do you any good. Now, I think that the Democrat Party has put us in a very privileged position to disenfranchise all of these different genres of people who think they're just nuts, but maybe they're just afraid to take that first step over to the Republican Party. And so we're going to have to reach out that welcome invitation to these specific groups that either one, the GOP has not been targeting and or has not been successful at targeting. So I think that's very necessary in this race, and that's something that I'm capable of doing. Now, my business structure actually is I own 2 real estate companies. I own the largest debt negotiation company in the state, where we negotiate pre-foreclosures for homeowners with their bank so that they don't get foreclosed. We essentially have the bank take a haircut on what's owed so that it can be sold. I also own 2 gyms. We don't hold Planned Parenthood meetings at my gym. So no, rest assured on that. I'm just developing some storage units. I own a construction company. I own lawn and landscape. So the reason that I bring all that up is because what I've done and been able to accomplish utilizing these conservative principles I learned long ago, this is not a stump speech for me. This is, I actively talk like this with many people each and every day. This is my objective, and people say, well, what's your elevator speech? What do you do? So, you make it, it's not, oh, I write mortgages. I help facilitate the dream of homeownership. No, I don't, but that could be a, elevator speech for whoever writes mortgages in here. What I do, my skill set is to create situations to allow people to become the best versions of themselves. That's what I do. And that's why I'm running for Congress, is because I operate at the highest levels all the time. And it's been through the blood, sweat, and tears to get to where I am, getting knocked down 100 times and getting back up 101. That's what I've been able to do. But I think that there is something missing in the legislature when you have President Trump, who is lowering our taxes, in Oklahoma, who just had the largest tax increase in the history of the state. So there's a disconnect. My objective is to be that business style. You got the Kevin Stitt, you got the Donald Trump, is the go-between from Oklahoma to Washington. Now, I'll give you one last story, and this is going to just kind of accentuate kind of what my business model does and how I think it relates to this actual race itself. So the property management company, the real estate companies, the debt negotiation company, they essentially all feed into themselves. So I've got a client, her name's Maria, and so this is an example of how this structure goes. Her house is in foreclosure. We negotiate with her bank, but she's got to move out of that house. I've got a structure of short-term rentals that I put her into in the interim time of her getting this debt negotiated, because she's been behind on her payment. She doesn't have the credit to go to a regular property management company. We put her in a month-to-month short-term lease, get the credit a little bit further along down the line, long-term property management. Then we put them in there. Then, after a year, we actually funnel them back out to buy a house again. Now, I'm in the process of starting a credit repair company as well, which is the only thing that I'm missing in this structure to funnel and feed itself. Now, the reason I bring that up is because, again, fiscal conservative. This is the efficiency of something created, and everything feeds itself. There's no duplication of resources. We take everything that we already have and we funnel and filter it within each other. So that's why I'm running for U.S. Congress. I believe that I have a specific.
Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Thank you, Senator Dahm, and we will see you guys on Friday.
Hello, basket of deplorables, ladies, gentlemen, those who are undecided. Todd Tucker back at the bunker, where I belong, And we want you to join us here at OTU Media. Become a patron, a Patreon member. If you want true conservative messaging and not the same old corporate filtered news of Oklahoma, this is the place to be. Become a supporter, a soldier, a sergeant, a co-producer, even a sponsor. True conservatism lives here at OTU Media. Go to patreon.com/OTU Media, patreon.com/OTU Media. This is where conservatism lives, and the fight is just beginning.